the mover to be able to wind up. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Betts, it's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship, as I think every member of the committee has made clear. And I'm extremely grateful to my honourable friend, the member for Bassetlaw, for securing this important debate. And I think it would be agreed across the House, Mr. Betts, that this has been both an eloquent, sincere and united debate in the assessment of the Iranian threat, not only in the United Kingdom, but also around the world. And I'm extremely grateful to the many honourable members, including my honourable friend, for their contributions, and I will try to respond to all the points that have been made. As the House will know, it is my noble friend Lord Ahmed who leads on these matters with great distinction, and I will try and pick up some of the themes which he has set out in the past and said are extremely important. Before I move specifically to respond to the points that have been made, I want just to pick up a number of points that have been made already in this debate. The honourable member for Leighton and Wanstead, who speaks often on these matters, made an additional point that has been picked up by others about the way in which the rights of girls and women, not, alas, only in Iran, but in many places in the world, those rights are receding at the moment, and I'm grateful for him for underlining that point. My honourable friend for Henley, who is, of course, the leader of our mission to the Council of Europe, made a particular point that was also picked up, I think, by the honourable lady for Richmond Park about schoolgirl poisonings. And I wanted just to touch upon that. The reports of schoolgirls being poisoned in Iran are deeply sinister, and we are continuing to monitor the situation closely. As the Minister for the Middle East has said, it is essential girls can enjoy the right to education without fear, and the regime must hold those who are responsible to account. The Honourable Lady for Chesham and Amersham made an important point about free media and an important point too about the role of the BBC. I should stress to the House that the BBC is operationally and editorially independent from the government, and decisions over how its services are delivered are a matter for the BBC. But I wanted to make the point that only a small fraction of the BBC's Iranian audience receive BBC News solely via radio. The vast majority use BBC Persian on TV and online, both of which services will continue under the BBC's current plans. If I turn for a moment to the honourable gentleman for Denton and Redditch, who talked about the effect of sanctions and also about the important opportunities that the Magnitsky legislation presents to the House, where I think he and I were quite heavily involved in promoting that legislation previously. The UK has imposed over 70 new human rights sanctions since the protests sparked by the death of Mahsa Amini in September. And these sanctions do send a clear message to the regime that we will seek to hold it to account for violent repression of its own people. And in respect, again, of Magnitsky, we are obviously keeping those provisions under review, as we should always. The honourable gentleman for Glasgow North also underlined the attacks on the rights of women and the importance of getting back to 0.7 as soon as we possibly can, and I thank him for that. The Honourable Lady for Richmond Park spoke about the North Koreans, Tamils and Iranians in her constituency and underlined that Britain has always sought to be generous in providing sanctuary for those seeking persecution. She raised a number of other points, some of which I will come to in a moment. But I want to thank her, obviously, for the efforts she is making specifically for Iranians in her community, and to make it clear that the UK maintains targeted sanctions on individuals and organisations responsible for human rights violations, nuclear escalation, regional destabilisation, and other malign activity. But while I don't know the full details of the specific case she has raised, our sanctions do not aim to target ordinary Iranians. And if she wishes to take up with me the specific points she made earlier about bank accounts, I would be very happy to look into that for her. The point that the Honourable Gentleman for Dundee West made in his eloquent speech, where he charted the way Iran has made such a contribution in the past to international civilization, and where that contribution has been so perverted over the last decades. And he set out an eloquent charge sheet against the regime. He also raised the issue of UK detainees. And I want to emphasise to the House that the safety of UK and our nationals remains a top priority. We do, however, and the House will understand this, respect the wishes of individuals and their families regarding the specific details of these cases being shared in public. But I can assure the House that we are guided first and foremost by the best interests of those individuals, and we work closely with the families whenever we can. Turning to the Honourable Lady who speaks for the official opposition, I will come to the significant points she raised in her speech, but I want to just make a couple of points in advance of that. First of all, to recognise what she said about Nazanin and her husband Richard, and all that went on. She spoke for everyone in the House when she made those points. She raised particularly the point about Mr. Beheshti, and I want to say that he has met ministerial colleagues in both the Home Office and the Foreign Office, and I very much share the hopes for his ongoing good health, which was raised by others in this debate as well. I hope Mr. Beheshti can take reassurance in the fact that the government will continue to protect our security and that of our partners in the region by holding Iran to account for its destabilising activities. And finally, on this part of my remarks, I want just to come to the point that she raised, and others have raised too, about consular detainees. We, as a government, we urge Iran to stop its practice of unfairly detaining British and other foreign nationals, and we will continue to work with like-minded partners to hold the regime in Iran to account. It remains entirely within Iran's gift to release any British national who has been unfairly detained. We do not and will never accept our nationals being used as diplomatic leverage. Yes, of course.
To all the members here, and I know that's very appreciated across the House. Could he outline whether he believes that the criticisms in the FCDO report on how British nationals are treated by consular missions abroad, does he believe that those criticisms were correct? And what does he think the FCDO needs to do to make good on the current arrangements?
Well, this is a very important area of the work carried out by the Foreign Office. There is an inquiry on these matters in respect of the consular approach to Sudan, where I will be giving evidence shortly, I think. But she is right. The issue of how we treat consular detainees and how the consular system works is a vital part of our work. And I can tell her that we look very carefully at any suggestions from the House or from the Foreign Affairs Select Committee in how these can be improved. It is extremely important that we do so without fear and favour, and we take advice from all quarters in how such services can be made better. Now, I want to turn, if I may now, Mr. Betts, to the current situation, and I want to emphasise that Iran's reprehensible behaviour has escalated in recent months. Its human rights record is appalling, as has been pointed out throughout this debate, with surging use of the death penalty, increased restrictions on women, intensified persecution of religious minorities, and the further erosion of media and civic freedoms. The regime has brutally cracked down on protesters and made repeated attempts to target those outside of Iran. We've identified over 15 credible threats, as was set out by my honourable friend, to the lives of UK-based individuals since January 2022, orchestrated by the Iranian regime. Iran's supply of drones to Russia, mentioned during this debate, supporting its illegal war in Ukraine, is deplorable and a direct violation of United Nations Security Council Resolution 2231. These drones are being used to attack Ukrainian citizens and cities and critical infrastructure. And Iran's escalation of its nuclear activities in threatening international peace and security and undermining the global non-proliferation system. We are working relentlessly across government and with the international community to hold Iran to account for its unacceptable behaviour. Now, if I may look first of all in that context at UK action, let me begin by addressing Iran's appalling human rights record. The executions of 3 more protesters in May is a shocking reminder of how the regime uses the death penalty to instill fear and suppress dissent. In 2022, Iran executed at least 576 people, nearly double the previous year. The death toll includes Iranians who were children at the time of their alleged offence, a flagrant breach of international law. The latest estimates indicate that the rate of executions continues to climb. One human rights group recorded at least 142 executions last month alone, a truly staggering number. Inside Iran, these killings have met with a public outcry. The people of Iran have had enough of their government's impunity and violence. They are rightly demanding a better future. And the UK will continue to seek to hold Iran to account for its behaviour. As the House will know, His Majesty's government strongly opposes the death penalty in all circumstances, and our ambassador in Tehran ensures that Iran leaders are left in no doubt about the political and diplomatic price they are paying for their brutality. Since last October, we have sanctioned more than 70 individuals and entities for their human rights abuses, including the Prosecutor General, who is at the heart of Iran's barbaric use of the death penalty. Mr. Betts, I now move to the issue of state threats. Over the past 18 months, we've seen the regime orchestrate multiple and credible threats to the lives of those living in the UK, including towards media organisations and journalists. We will always stand up to such behaviour from foreign nations. Our priority is the safety and security of the UK and those who live here. We have repeatedly made clear to the Iranian regime that these threats are intolerable, and will be met with a significant response. We are working tirelessly across government and with our international partners to identify, deter and respond to them. It is time now, indeed it is long past time now, for the regime to listen. It must stop threatening the lives of ordinary people in Iran and elsewhere, including in this country. Now, I turn now to the issue that has been raised repeatedly in this debate, and I think by everyone who spoke, which is the issue of Iran IRGC regional activity. We take very seriously the threatening behaviour of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Not only have we sanctioned this organisation in its entirety, but we have also sanctioned 29 individuals and entities affiliated with it since last October. This includes the Basij Force, the arm of the IRGC mobilised to enforce brutal repression on the streets of Iran, and most recently 4 commanders under whose leadership IRG forces have opened fire on arbitrarily detained and tortured protesters. The list of terrorist organisations prescription is, of course, as has been repeatedly underlined in the House, kept under review. And as the House knows, and I think usually accepts, we don't routinely comment on whether an organisation is or is not under consideration for prescription. But the House may rest assured that across all parts of the government, these matters are kept under the closest possible review and are looked at to assess the most effective way of proceeding in what everyone in this debate has made clear is an absolute priority. The regime's wider destabilising activity is rampant, including support for a number of militant groups, including Hezbollah, as was set out by the honourable gentleman from Dundee, Lebanon and Syria, militias in Iraq and the Houthis in Yemen. HMS Lancaster, the UK's permanent naval presence in the Gulf, has interdicted Iranian weapons transfers to the Houthis, further evidence of Iran's destabilising activity in the region. We are working across government, Mr. Betts, and with our international allies to ensure that our collective response is robust, deters the regime from such malign activity, and holds it to account wherever possible for threatening international security. Now, I turn now to the point I made earlier about Iran supporting Russia. Iran is now one of Russia's top military backers, supplying hundreds of drones that have been used to bombard Ukraine. Iran is testing their weapons in a new theatre through these sordid deals, and in return, Russia is offering military and technical support to the regime. We strongly condemn Iran's actions in supporting Russia's illegal war, and we have sanctioned 11 individuals and 2 manufacturers responsible for supplying drones. We will continue to call out this desperate alliance on the international stage and hold Russia and Iran to account. Meanwhile, Iran's nuclear program has never been more advanced than it is today. Iran refused to seize the critical opportunity to sign the revised Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action in August last year, making demands outside the scope of the agreement. And the International Atomic Energy Agency has repeatedly highlighted Iran's lack of cooperation with long-running investigations into undeclared material. Iran's malign activity has made the diplomatic context even more challenging, but we remain committed to ensuring that Iran never develops a nuclear weapon and are working closely with our partners to find a diplomatic solution. To conclude, Mr. Betts, we are working relentlessly across government and with the international community to hold Iran to account for its unacceptable behaviour, for its appalling treatment of its own people, reprehensible support for Russia's illegal war, and its escalating nuclear activities. And just as the Iranian people do, we want to see a more responsible Iran, one that respects the rights and freedoms of all of its citizens, and one that does not threaten international peace and security. We urge the country's leaders to listen to their citizens as they demand a better future.
Right, and I call